All right, Nate, the NFC side of the playoffs starts Sunday afternoon with the 7 seed Packers traveling to face the 2 seed Eagles in Philadelphia. We have seen some early movement in the odds for this game before the line is settled at 4.5 currently. You said you didn't have many AFC bets for this weekend, but do you have some here?
Yeah, so I've some interest in game both side and total. Starting with the point spread, I'm interested in the Packers plus the points.
Hmm.
We saw early when this matchup was pretty much set, which was right after the Packers lost to the Bears and the Commanders held on to beat the or came back to beat the Cowboys, and it locked
Yeah.
in the matchup that we were, if all the favorites kind of advanced, this would be it. So a
Hmm.
matchup I've been thinking about for over a week. And when the line came out, it was 3.5, which I kind of thought was a fair number. But because Jordan
Hmm.
Love left Sunday's game for the Packers, and also Christian Watson suffered an
Yeah.
injury that has ended up being a season-ending ACL tear, I kind of expected the Eagles to take early money. So I was in no rush to bet
Hmm.
Green Bay. I wanted to see how far this would get up. On Monday morning, I wake up, it's Eagles minus 5.5. So I was thinking maybe get to 6. I feel like Green Bay plus 6 would be a good bet, assuming Jordan Love's okay. And then when later on Monday afternoon or late morning, it goes down to 4.5, and then we get news that Jalen Hurts is still in the concussion protocol. The number kind of continues to bounce around, but after all that, as of Tuesday afternoon, as we record this, it is Eagles minus 4.5 right now. So a lot of fascination in the point spread. I feel like we're going to kind of stay in this moment as long as Jalen Hurts is good to go. I actually think whoever wins this matchup has a really good shot at making the Super Bowl. I do like this Packers team from an upside perspective. They have an offense that's really explosive. However, without Christian Watson, maybe they lack that, and they're going to have to go into more of like a bully ball team with Josh Jacobs running the ball. But I do still feel like they have enough young wide receivers that they could kind of pick up where Watson left off, even though he's kind of a unique talent with his ability to stretch the field. And on the other side, I do like the Eagles in general. Their defense is great under Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator. They're able to run the ball behind a great offensive line. My only question would be how Jalen Hurts looks if he is able to go in this game. And obviously, he's going to have to go in this game if the Eagles are going to want to make it to the Super Bowl. But Hurts hasn't played a full game since week 15. He had that concussion early in the game against the Commanders in week 16. They sat him out in week 17. And then in week 18, they didn't need to play anyone. And he was one of the guys that was resting. So I was a little bit surprised to still see him in the concussion protocol as of Monday. So I'm still looking into the Packers here at plus 4.5 or better. At plus 4, maybe a small bet on Green Bay, but would want over 4, especially without Christian Watson. But because I have some questions about the Packers offense in general without Watson, maybe Love is still banged up from why he had to leave the game in week 18, and then mix in the Eagles' strong defense, mix in maybe some rust for Jalen Hurts. And I do land on the first half under in this game. I personally bet under 23.5 in the first half. I think under 23 or better is a good bet in this game. I can expect a slow start in Philly. So I'm already in on the first half under, and then I'm going to take a look at Packers plus the points. But that'll probably be a bet later in the week if I do take Green Bay against the spread.
Sure. All right, the second game is the Sunday night game featuring star rookie QB Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. They're taking on Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. Tampa Bay is a field goal favorite in this game, and it's the highest total of this round at 50.5. This is a rematch from week 1, which was also at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa Bay. What has changed for both of these teams since the Bucks won 37-20 in early September?
Yeah, I remember that game well because when the schedule was released back in May, my eyes immediately were drawn to the Commanders plus the points. I thought that the Bucks were going to be a big time regression candidate in
Hmm.
2024 after how they greatly achieved in 2023. But
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield proved me wrong. They got a good OC in Liam Cohn who replaced Dave Canales. I thought there'd be a pretty big drop off losing Dave Canales,
Hmm.
who is now the Panthers head coach. And then defensively, I thought the Bucks could be in a lot of trouble, especially that since they had a pretty tough schedule. I mean, I was on the Commanders in that game, and I was basically just a game early on the Commanders' run because after that loss, they really started to click offensively with Jaden Daniels and offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury calling the plays. So, I'm not surprised to see this point spread where it is because both these teams definitely overachieved expectations and probably to the same level. So seeing the Buccaneers is about a field goal favorite makes sense to me. What's really big in this, like the difference between the week one game and now, is that the total in that game in Tampa Bay was 42 and a half. And now we have an 8 point jump to 50 and a half. This total is even flirting at 51, which is a key number in terms of NFL total betting. So, I mean, it's a high jump, but I think it's justified with how these offenses have played, and also some concerns with the defenses lately. I will say when this matchup was set, I was a little disappointed because I thought these teams would have been good bet against teams in the wild card round against other teams in the NFC. The Buccaneers, I know they ended the season strong, winning 6 of 7. But if you look at who they played, there's a lot of bad teams, a lot of bad quarterbacks. They had a game against the Panthers in Carolina, which was a close game. They did beat the Chargers, so that was one of the impressive wins. But then the next week they go out and lose to Cooper Rush. But like other quarterbacks they beat were like Tommy DeVito, AOC. They barely beat Spencer Rattler. AOC is the Raiders quarterback, of course, and then they barely beat Spencer Rattler in Week 18 this past week in a game where they were favored by 2 touchdowns. So I feel like the Bucks, you can poke a lot of holes in them, but also you can poke holes in the
Yeah.
Commanders. They had a very late bye week, week 14. They ended up winning 4 straight games after that. But if you look at each
Hmm.
individual result, it was a 1 point win against the Commanders where Spencer Rattler took over for Jake Hayner. So his backup quarterbacks for the Saints. They beat the Eagles, but without Jalen Hurts for most of the game, and the
Yeah.
Commanders had to make a big comeback. They were down double
Hmm.
digits at home to Michael Penix in the Falcons in Week 17 on Sunday night, and they needed overtime to win that game. And then with the Cowboys starting Trey Lance in Week 18, and the Commanders kind of needing to win to secure a 6 seed and not have to go to Philly in the wild card round, they needed a
Yeah.
last second touchdown from Marcus Mariota to Terry McLaurin. So I feel like the Commanders are on like a very fluky 4-0 run to end
Yeah.
the season, and it was a team I would have loved to bet against, but I just don't know if I want to do it against Tampa Bay, who I mentioned I have
Yeah.
questions about, especially the Bucks as a favorite. So I do think Tampa Bay probably is more likely to advance, but that's indicated in the odds. So for me, I don't have a bet on this game.
Sure. All right, Nate. The last game of the wild card round is Monday night, where the 14-3 Vikings have to go on the road to face the NFC West champs Rams. Minnesota lost 2 games to Detroit, and the other loss being a Thursday night game to the Rams back in October. What are your thoughts in this game between two coaches that know each other pretty well?
Yeah, so Kevin O'Connell was the Rams OC for 2 years, including the team that won the
Hmm.
Super Bowl 3 years ago, before taking the Vikings head coaching job in
Hmm.
2022. So he knows Sean McVay well. McVay
Yeah.
obviously will know O'Connell well. Whenever there's familiarity, I always kind of look towards the under, and I think you can make a case for the under here, even though they look perceptionally wise, these are two high scoring teams. But if you look at the Rams, what they did at the end of the season, they beat the 49ers, Jets, and Cardinals. The scores
Yeah.
of those games were 12-6 against the 49ers, 19-9 against the Jets, and then they beat the Cardinals only 13-9 against an Arizona team that was already eliminated from playoff contention. So I do have some questions about Matthew Stafford in this offense, and maybe the Stafford sitting in week 18 and Kupp and Nakua kind of resting in week 18 as well will be what this LA Rams offense needs, but it's really been their running game and their defense that's kind of carried them. And they've been a lower scoring team ever since that shootout against the Bills back in week 14. As for the Vikings, their offense has been strong all season, but you saw Sam Darnold on Sunday night. It was kind of worrisome because you were always worried that Darnold was going to have a kind of a clunker of the game, uh, a performance that we were maybe used to back when he was with the Jets and maybe some other stops where he's a very underwhelming starter and wasn't playing at such a high level. And I was expecting really good things from the Vikings offense in that game against a Lions defense that is really banged up, and a lot of teams that aren't very good have had success moving the ball against lately. So I'd have to be a little bit concerned about Sam Darnold now going on the road, first playoff start of his career. So I feel like there's a chance where both offenses could struggle a little bit. You add in the familiarity and both head coaches knowing what each other is going to want to do. And I mean, I think that the under might not be a popular play, especially the last game on Monday night of the playoff round, but that's the way I'm looking. As for the side, I think the only argument I could make here is for the Vikings. I feel like the Rams are going to be a popular side this week, though, so I'm in no rush to bet the Vikings. But I'd expect a lot of Vikings fans in this game in LA, so there won't be too much of a home field for the Rams. And just the fact that you're basically getting the Vikings in a pick the winner situation. They've been the better team for all season pretty much, and now I feel like this could be a buy low spot on Minnesota. So haven't finalized any bets yet, but I'm looking towards the Vikings on the side and then maybe the under, but I do want to see where that number goes as the week goes on.